Scent Podcast.
Okay, we're live. This is Matthew, and I'm back with another interview on the Spotlight podcast. This week, my guest is someone I've been tracking on Scent for a number of months. They first caught my eye with their really funny, nice, homey, like very unique looking avatars that they had been creating and testing out on the Scent audience that they call Rubber Dinghies. And ever since that point, I've been very curious to talk to the creator behind that project and a number of other projects that I know they're cooking up, but I would like to know more about. So it's my pleasure to be able to speak today with the creator known as Hool. So welcome to the Spotlight.
Hello, Matthew. How you doing?
So to get started, I'm really curious to listen to your introduction of who you are, and especially what you've been doing professionally and creatively up until coming on to Scent.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Matthew. I'll try and give you the short version. my life. So my name is Terence Riley. I'm Irish, and I'm a typical Irish guy from a large family, born on a farm. And everyone's your cousin. So then I decided, I wanted to do something different. So back in 1996, I actually studied like 3D computer design and animation in Ireland. I was actually using the first 3D Studio Max. That's for all the geeks, And then I tried to make a career in animation, basically. And I've been doing it 20 years now, but back then it was really tough. It was tough to get jobs. Not everybody wanted a 3D character animator. But I kept going, and I finally picked up some jobs around Europe. Then I landed a job as on a project in Spain called Planet 51. Now, this wasn't like the most amazing movie, but it started my career started to change. And then I got to work on really cool projects like Paul, Iron Man 2, John Carter, Chappie, Jurassic World, Warm Bodies, all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
And then I got to work in Aardman on a 360 thing for Google. And I thought I've made it, So, working with some amazing people there. So, but then I had an itch, I always wanted to do my own business, basically most people on the Scent and most people around. But I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. So I tried I'll try and keep it short. I tried YouTube animation business. I tried a 3D printing business, but they never took off. Then about 2 years ago, I found out about 3D interactive design. And that kind of changed my mind. It blew my mind. I didn't know it was possible. And then I just started learning how to code. And, coming from a 3D background, I knew the 3D world in the softwares, and it kind of helped me, with the 3D worlds with the code. I just needed to learn how to code. So, but back then, my idea was to try and do an interactive online art festival, which was quite a big task. So I knew I needed help. So I reached out to another guy in Bristol.
What year was that?
Oh, this is maybe about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So the past 2 years is really just my entry into 3D interactive stuff. Before that, it's just all 3D software and 3D design stuff. So we started working together, and we started working together. Things were going well, and then I suppose I'll fast forward to January. We decided to apply for some grants. And we actually won one. We couldn't believe it. We won £50,000 to develop a project for a 5G platform, and we decided to do crazily a multiplayer web browser augmented reality demo. And that is where Rubber Dinghy was born. So I'm trying to round it off here. So, but that's we're still on it. We're still nearly finished it, and we can talk more about that at a later stage if you like. But that's basically my career, my professional career to date.
I knew it was impressive, but I mean, your 3D work in the past, I mean, the projects that you're involved in the movies, wow, I had no idea about that. That's so cool.
Thank you.
I don't always ask this question, but when I come across users with like really good, strong pseudonyms, I'm always curious the origin, the background behind the name. So I'm just curious if you could enlighten our listeners as to how you got and arrived at that name.
I totally can, Matthew. And coming up with a name is really tough.
Super tough.
It's super tough. You think it's so easy, right? And then you try and get the URL as well. So couldn't that cost, by the way, 400,000 to get Hool, so I couldn't obviously afford that.
Not surprising. Four letter.
Yeah. So basically, the name came from I was looking at Irish words to describe some of my 3D printed products, which I'd done years ago, and I came across a word called Hool, and it means like the pleasure of beauty, or something like that. And basically, I just derived the word from the Hool part and changed the spelling. And I looked it up in the Urban Dictionary, and seemingly it means like hot and cool or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure what to make of that. So yeah, that's it.
Cool. And picking up sort of where you left off with your introduction, talking about the rubber dinghies, which was where I came into contact with you on Scent. Well, just tell me like how the rubber dinghies came about. Dive into there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we applied for this grant with a very vague idea. We knew to keep it vague because I believe the type of grant we went for was more technical, I suppose, and they didn't really maybe care what the actual content was, right? They wanted to test their technology. So actually, speaking on that, we've had a busy 6 months because we had to build basically two versions of our app, which is like for the 5G infrastructure in Bristol, but also a cloud version of it, so we can compare the speeds, right? So crazily, we decided to make an original piece of content for this, as well as test and invent and all this new technology as we went, right? So, yeah, I know. I suppose we didn't know what we were going into. We had an idea, but we didn't know the amount of work. So, what Rubber Dinghy basically was, it was basically just like, I was saying to myself, I need to keep this incredibly simple so that it can be multiplayer, it can run on the mobile, and it's not going to lag. So I thought, right, primitive ships, really simple character. And I'd done this character really quickly within the first week, and it was so simple to model, right? It's just a matter of like bringing it to life. But then we moved on to another character, and then eventually I backtracked back to this guy. And I suppose his name, Rubber Dinghy, just comes from the fact that he's got like a, obviously a tourist-shaped body, but it looks like a rubber piece of rubber. So, I suppose can I say what that project exactly is?
Yeah, go into it.
Yeah, please, just a little bit. Like it's basically we were trying to come up with an original concept, and before we were thinking it should be like when the users interact with the character changes over time. That was our original idea. But then we thought, wait a second, why do we do that with animation? So the idea of the game is, it's not a fully fleshed out game, by the way. It's going to be like a demo version of it. And what you're going to be able to do is each player will get a unique single move, and then they're able to move or go over to another virtual player in the multiplayer platform, and then swap a move. And then once they swap those moves, they can blend them together to make new moves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really simple, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, that's really it. Like it's a way of connecting with people, and it's also a way of communicating with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe there could be a couple of outcomes for it, but right now we're just trying to get it done, get it out there, see what people think.
In terms of the movement, like, are these movements pre-assigned? Like, is it a delimited original array of movements? How does that all work behind the scenes?
So yeah, so some of the moves are like they're pre-animated. Like I pre-animate them, and then I would like make sure they blend quite well together. However, like, and some of the moves are very simple moves. Like they're just like the leg moves this way, then it moves that way, and so the idea of the thing is to give the control to the user as much as possible. Um, so, but we've added a little bit more complexity to it by allowing the users to, choose when these moves kick in, and then also what value to blend them with. So one could be 20% value, and another could be 100% value. Uh, and then there's other things like you can twist the body one way and twist the top half of the body a different way. And so I suppose it could grow into a lot more than what it currently is. That's what could be an interesting discussion, like another time, see what people think.
What is the augmented reality component of this? I'm curious to hear how that component works on like a user's phone. Like they open up, they go into the site, into the browser app. Then what is the experience?
Yeah, so basically they log in, they go to the website, they log in, create a username, and then they pick a character. Right now, there's only going to be like Rubber Dinghy, but with 4 different, skins, right? But eventually, it could be lots of other different animators, lots of other different characters on there. And then, so they pick their character, and then they have their move, and then they go and interact with other people to get new moves, and then it grows from there. Obviously, they can log out and save their moves, and come back to it. We have this like kind of crazy idea where it could become a spectator, almost like what do you call it? Like a busker scenario. When you perform and then you get some money. So we have this like crazy idea for like players to be able to make money from it as well. So sorry, does that answer your question?
I guess when I hear AR, I automatically think of like Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
I can see some reality, but then I'm imagining Rubber Dinghy being in the game.
Let me explain. Yeah. So basically, there's going to be some markers. Like, so if you're at home, you'll be able to print out these markers, and they'll spin up a game room, right? So that game room is going to be like a multiplayer room, so you can invite your friends to it, and then there'll be music, or like in each, we're going to try to implement different genres of music, maybe to different game rooms. And these game rooms then can be, obviously you can see what everyone else. You're holding the phone. Once you hold it to the tracker, it picks up. Your other friends come in. You can see them moving at the same time. You can move over to them, and then collect their moves, and so.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Printing out the markers and setting up like the game room. That's
Yeah.
I thought about that.
Yeah, see, and see, the thing with the 5G is what they're trying to roll out is like a location-based version of this. So what we've had to do is like when we walk from one spot in this like square to another spot, it picks up a new Wi-Fi, which spins up a new game room. And see, that's really interesting. So obviously the cloud version will be, for like someone who have to print out a tracking marker. Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
No, this really actually because I mean, in Korea, we've had like 5G phones for like years now,
Yeah,
but no real like application of it. And I mean, because of the issue with the signal going through the walls and breaking, like I haven't really experienced the benefit point blank.
yeah,
But finally, like this is the first actual application that I've heard of that kind of plays to the technology strengths. Finally, it's excited to get onto this now as being right where I am in the world, right?
yeah. Like we're gonna launch it and then just see what people think. Take it from there. It could evolve into something really a lot more. We would be like looking for funding as well on that. So, but yeah, I'd like to actually kind of intertwine it with Art Evolve because it's a project that all the content we're producing is like it's all kind of linked in together, but it's also separate, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So tell our listeners about Art Evolve and what that project is, and yeah, how that potentially could relate more to what you're doing with Rubber Dinghy.
Yeah. So right. Let me try and simply get this across because I myself have had trouble explaining this to people. Um, and I finally did, like after a couple of times of trying to write it out and stuff. I think I've cracked it. So I hope so. Um, so basically, Art Evolve is an immersive online art which evolves over time. Um, so that's straight up, but it comprises of 3D virtual art worlds, 3D concept interactive art, and within these worlds, there are stories intertwined throughout both of like the art and the world, but it's continuously developed over time and by creative technologists. So I'll just check. Are you sleeping now?
So right off the bat, it
Yeah.
reminds me of Neil Stephenson's The Red Diamond or A Young Girl's Illustrated Primer. One thing, like a reactive, like that kind of concept, and sort of like what async art is doing in a different sort of way potentially.
Yeah, totally. Like it's definitely like time based, and it's obviously there's change over time. Um, but I suppose like you know there's a lot of there's differences too because the type of artists that are going to be creating this stuff is creative technologists mainly. Um, Now I just want to say like I might say during this interview like because creative technology is quite a mouthy sentence there. I might refer them as artists, and which they are, right? So, and that's actually one of the things I was inspired by seeing code artists and seeing creative technologists do their thing. Made me want to try to be one of them, because like I see them as like early explorers, and it's like a sort of like a hybrid disruptor, you know. And they're always like changing and iterating stuff, so it's really cool. But so if I say artist, that's what I mean. Um, but yeah, like some of the key things, by them being the artist, is really interesting for me, because they can do user-led or user-centric stories with coding, and as well as the artist-led stories. So like we can lead, but also then create user-centered stories as well. So meaning like basically there's opportunities for story to be like very rich. Like we can offer multiple endings with different outcomes and based on user interaction.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So imagine over time, these stories coming together by a bunch of creative technologists, sometimes working on their own, which is totally fine, but also sometimes maybe collaboratively working. And they're making stories, for the users to find their way, and based on what the users are doing in there, or the options that the creative makes, different outcomes can come. So it's almost like a choose your own adventure sort of. The thing I wanted to get across also is that it's basically like a similar type of layer thing, but the layers, I suppose, are a couple of things like in Art Evolve. There layers can be websites. So, an actual website that the creative technology is making lots of mini websites basically, or evolving one. And those can be layers in themselves, but then within that, obviously, they're like the master layers, I suppose, right? And then within that master layer, there can be, like the layers that we can do with this, with creative technologists, is that some layers could be functional layers, so user-centric buttons or user controls, or there could be artistic updates, there could be 3D assets, it could be 3D animation links. So I'd love to talk about this maybe briefly, and if you want to unpack it a bit later, but like right now it's subscription based, and I'd like to try that model and see where that goes. But it's not too long from now, we would like to try and sell, the assets within on the crypto market as well. So that could be a URL, interactive piece of art, or an actual 3D model, which can be designed for Decentraland, for resale in Decentraland or something like that. So these, and what's interesting about this for me is that these assets and these layers are still part of the Art Evolve subscriber story, right? And in turn, that brings if the art collector buys the content, the assets from us, the URL or the 3D asset, they then have the pleasure of us driving traffic and users coming through that content, as well as creative technologies updating that content over time, which could drive value for secondary sales, or I think that's what is interesting.
That's really interesting. So like an end user could subscribe to Art Evolve and choose a story. In the story, maybe they see something that they like, maybe an object or something, or a character or something that they could potentially also purchase, and then it could work, like in your example, they could put it in their build in Decentraland or something like that. That's so cool. That is so fascinating.
I've been really heavily thinking about a lot of stuff, man. And like the cool thing is, I wanted to find a balance, right? So I wanted to find balance, like for users and artists. Like, and when I say users, I mean subscribers and art collectors. I want to find a balance for all of those. So that's, this is part of the reason why these assets, the secondary sales, and using other marketplaces, because, a lot of people ask us this, like, are you guys a platform, or, what exactly is it, a marketplace? What is it exactly? And maybe that's one of your questions. But basically, I suppose we're focusing on the content, right? Focus on creating the interactive content as creative technologists. However, we're also, I suppose, developing a platform as we go. So I suppose it could be almost like a decentralized platform built, owned, kind of ownership by the creative technologists themselves, because they're going to be doing their own thing. But eventually that evolves as well. But what I suppose you could compare to kind of the way GitHub works, the way things can merge out and then, fork out and then merge back in, maybe, if that makes sense to some people. But I did want to talk about the balance of, what you get to actually do in the world. Yeah. Is that okay, Matthew? Or?
No, yeah. And is this something that you see going and being accessible in VR? Do you feel like it would be better if this is just desktop browser based for now? How do you see VR fitting into something like Art Evolve?
Yes. So the way I see it is that creating content for all three, like say all three major things like AR, VR, and desktop, is quite a lot of work for one person or a small team of people. So what I think we should do is focus on one or the other. To begin, well, right now I'm just focusing. It's just me right now creating this stuff, and my partner George is going to come into it as the second creative technologist in it, and he's got an amazing idea, which he wants to explore. And yeah, so we're going to develop our projects for a specific thing, like for a specific device. Yeah, so right now it's just desktop, but within that desktop version, there can be a link to another web page, which is actually an AR piece or a VR piece. So I suppose as it goes, it's going to have all of that.
Perfect. Yeah, that was exactly what I was curious about. And then zooming out from there, I'm curious, the current state of crypto, of blockchain, and then I guess like early like blockchain based VR projects, if you are involved in any of them. I'm just curious from your perspective and being active in the space and with your professional experience, like what is your take on the current state of those sectors?
I'll start by saying I'm new to crypto, crypto art. I'm new to blockchain. I actually got my intro from, you know him as Render Mark.
Mark Render, yeah.
Yeah, Mark Render. Yeah, so his Mark Date. I worked with him a little bit in VR Labs in Bristol, so we're actually friends. So
small
yeah, it's a very small world. Yeah. So yeah, okay. So yeah, so he introduced me only like about 4 or 5 months ago. Only found out about Scent about 2 or 3 months ago. And like I've been trying to catch up, I suppose, on the whole crypto art scene. So I really don't know enough about it. But what caught my eye was I just love the idea that it historically tracks and you can see the pricing of the art and you can see the value. And I like the scarcity aspect as well. You know, that's one of the key things that really bother me about digital art. Like a lot of people don't see the value in digital art. And like, for me, there's a lot of yeah, actually, so Decentraland and CryptoVoxels, I do know them, and I was very impressed with what they're doing. Both quite different, but what I loved about what they're doing is like making it accessible, because it's true web-based, right? So yeah, and they're going really strong. Yeah, I'm very impressed with how blockchain in general is like enabling digital artists to show their value. So I suppose what I wanted to do was shine do like an interactive 3D web thing, but also lean more on the art side, I suppose, than say the game side, and focus more on the conceptual stuff and the story side of it, But with the blockchain fascinates me because a lot of people seem to think like digital art isn't cool or it doesn't have value. But what I really believe is it's not presented well, and CryptoVoxels and Decentraland are doing that, and we're trying to do it. However, that's one of the key things. I think it's not presented well, or what it could be.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like we're just at the very beginning of understanding like the natural context of digital art, like where it works best. I mean, I'm personally most excited about it because of how it's initially being presented and treated within these VR contexts. I feel like that is its natural medium. People can put up virtual digital frames in their house and they can show that digital art off that way. And I mean, that'll be a great conversation starter to lead people into these VR contexts, which seems to me to be the trend. especially since these VR worlds offer all the social components that make something so rich and varied and diverse, which makes things continually like fresh and new, and just it's the soup of life. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just this
Uh,
phenomenal space where all this possibility is contained,
yes. Yeah.
like forever. So I definitely vibe with the presentation being very important for digital art. And right now we're just kind of figuring out what's the best way, what's the best space. But I think we're all aiming in the right direction, and it's really interesting to see your take on how to present like digital artifacts and avatars, and I think that's all very it's perfect. This kind of experimentation.
Yeah, like, I totally agree. Like everyone's trying to find a way and invent the best possible sort of way to represent digital art and create value in it. Yeah, there's so many a lot of people, it seems, in this space is like, oh, they're sick of the real art world, right?
Everyone's sick of the real art world, it seems.
Yeah, everyone is. It's so elite, and I don't know. And I just think it's crazy what even artists are doing in the real world with, say, the likes of AR as well. Like, it's really interesting what they're doing,
Mhm.
hijacking art galleries and stuff like that. It's like, um, but yeah, like the blockchain is kind of solving the financial aspect, and what Cent is doing is great because they've basically give us a way to monetize this our content, right? So, and I think it's fantastic when you think of it. If it could grow more and more, like you can actually have a stake in a company, like like I would, if I was anyone that's into digital art, I'd get on Cent and then have a stake in all these like future businesses.
There we go. On that note, everyone listen to Hool, hop on Scent.
Yeah, you make some
Absolutely.
money. Come on.
Make some money,
Even
meet
if,
some great people.
yeah.
Totally.
Even if it's $1, like, or 5 cents, doesn't matter. It's better than nothing. Like, I always think like Instagram and Facebook, like, oh man, we're posting so much content on there and we don't get a penny, man.
Exactly. That's the thing. But it's definitely our job to make sure that it keeps growing so that the value can continually like represent itself to the users. So we have some exciting plans that I can't wait to kind of push out there. It'll just make the creator fan experience that much richer and bring everyone more closer together and kind of align with the growing spirit of like collaboration and this sort of like creator crypto part of crypto that's emerging, where it's creator first and then the crypto tools are kind of facilitating and strengthening the
Yeah.
creator.
I love that. I love that. It's like, it's for the creators, like, and you're trying to maybe step out of the way, just help them
Exactly.
get to the art collectors, so, and or whatever subscribers. But yeah,
Yeah. Since we did talk about, and since you are involved in multiple projects, we talked about the Rubber Dinghy project that's reaching conclusion within the next month or so, and then art.evolve. I think it would be really helpful if you could direct our listeners where they should look, what they should be waiting for in regards to those two projects in particular.
yeah, okay. So basically, well, on Scent, right? It's on Scent. What's their profile? I think it's like Hool Fest. I think maybe it's Hool actually. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's Hool. Yeah, yeah. And then and then obviously we have yet. I'll not mention our proper website because right now it's just beta. But you can find the links through Hool. All you have to do, right, is to get access to the interactive updates is see the profile and for any amount, and then I'll send you the scored link, Hula scored link, and then you can participate and get all the updates and join the conversation there. So I suppose that's really simple. For anyone that's off or that has any interest in Instagram, we do have at Hoolfest Instagram account. I suppose, yeah, people can see my previous other animation website if they want to check me out on the Scent profile as well. So
yeah, there we go. It's all on Scent.
Yeah, it's all on Scent. Yeah.
Well, Hool, it was an absolute pleasure to be able to talk with you and dig into your projects. I'm super excited and bullish on this space, and then avatars in general. I feel like there's so much you can do with them, and I think your direction of making them interoperable through these different worlds, I definitely think that's the wave of the future. And if people have not seen these rubber dinghies, you definitely need to look at them, because once you see them, you can't forget that image. And there's so much scope to kind of personalize them, make them super unique and different, and adding the movements to them. I just think it's so cool. And I can't wait to see the further development of what you're doing there in particular. So thank you so much for your time, Hool, and keep on creating.
Thanks very much, Matthew. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Scent Podcast. Scent Podcast. Scent Podcast. Scent Podcast.